spandex, tanned biceps, and long flowing hair are all the things you need in the world of pro wrestling. But now, with the help of Chris Jericho, you can add backwards cults to the list. Jericho is executive producing and starring in a new wrestling themed horror film titled Dark Match, helmed by Wolf Cop director Lowell Dean. The film will see a small time wrestling company accept a high paying gig in a backwoods town, only to discover when they arrive that the community is run by a mysterious cult leader with devious plans for their match. With pro wrestling and horror both having a niche popularity and a wacky world that accompanies it, will pro wrestling and horror be an unbeatable tag team? And obviously, Dylan, you know I had to put this on here. With slashers and suplexes being its infancy on the channel, and hopefully more content coming your way as long as WWE allows us. But this one, very interesting. I thought this was a lot of fun. We had seen Terrifier 2, and we mentioned it a couple times. As soon as I had seen that Chris Jericho was in the opening credits, I had been sitting in my seat waiting for him to show up, and obviously he doesn't show up till way later in the film, but a glorious moment nonetheless. So this one has me very excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very different, something that's not going to be taken super serious, but I think it's going to be a hell of a good time.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I like the first Wolf Cop. I never did get around to seeing another Wolf Cop. Did you? Have you seen those?
I've only seen moments of the original Wolf Cop. I started it. I can't remember where it was streaming, and I got about I don't know, maybe a half hour to 45 minutes into it, and I just had to turn it off. But from what I had seen of it, I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, as big werewolf connoisseurs as we are, we'll definitely need
Yeah,
to cover those. But
unique take.
yeah, I think that this is very interesting. We ourselves, I mean, you obviously are a huge wrestling fan. You've been following this stuff for ever basically. So it's one of those things where it's like you have a love for this, and of course, like anything, whenever there's a news story about a fucking alligator movie or shark movie, I make you put it on here. So when you threw that story to me just this morning, I was just like, of course, like I'm not gonna say no. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was the poster for the new Ari Aster flick, and I was like, I do want to talk about that, but like, it's we'll get there with the trailer. Which that's we'll have plenty of time to stalk Ari Aster, of course. We're gonna get to him at some point. Um, I'm curious, man. I'm interested in this. We have ourselves kind of a wrestling horror film that we've kind of pitched back and forth. We've worked on. So seeing the melding of these two worlds on screen is going to be a good bit of fun, I think. And I do like Chris Jericho. I loved his part in Terrifier 2. I don't know much about the man other than that, but he was funny, and he did seem like he had a lot of charisma there. You speak very highly of him. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm kind of using you to kind of guide me through this, but I am interested in this. This does sound cool. And knowing the director's previous work, I think that this could be a lot of fun. I think that he definitely, to me, understands comedy horror, and I think that he could really flex his muscles here. I guess a little wink there, and show us something unique and cool. And when you have somebody who's starring in the movie who's also executive producing it, you can tell that they have a lot of passion for the material. So I think that this could be a good bit of fun. I'm curious to see where it's going to end up. Feel like it's going to be on the lower budget side, so
Yeah,
whether we get to see
definitely.
it in theaters or not, but it would be cool to see this get picked up by like a Shutter or something like that, to where we can watch it just like we did with Christmas Bloody Christmas,
Yeah.
and be able to check that out. I'm in. I'm very much in. But you, as an avid wrestling fan, like, how do you feel about this? Where are you sitting with it?
I'm very intrigued. I think the world of pro wrestling can complement the horror genre so well. And like how you said, we have a couple different things that I think can really work in that horror genre. It's just I don't think they've really dived too deep in the world of pro wrestling and kind of mixing it with the horror genre. So I think there's a lot left on the table. There's a couple things out there, um, but nothing really prevalent. That can be like the quintessential wrestling themed horror film. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to go. There are a lot of themes that they can play with here. Um, so I really want to see where they're going to go. I think like Chris Jericho is the absolute right choice here. He's not the kind of guy that is out there to be the next, Dwayne Johnson or John Cena. I don't see his aspirations to be this big budget kind of star in action or anything like that. He is very much, if you I've read his two of his autobiographies, and absolutely tremendous stuff. If you ever get around to having the inkling to read them, highly suggest it, just because you kind of get the idea of his personality, and he is very much one of those guys that is extremely smart, really picks up on like subtle comedy and things like that. So I know him playing a role in here it's just gonna be, it's gonna be those comedy undertones with the horror amped up. So it's like for him to be in Terrifier 2, I think that says it all in terms of what you want to know about Chris Jericho, where that was not something that was an accident. It was something that was clearly intentional because he would be a guy that would keep tabs on Art the Clown and things like that. So he would absolutely know all of this stuff. So it really intrigues me to know that he has a say in, the film itself as well. He's starring in it. I think he said on his Twitter or Instagram that he was supposed to be playing the cult leader himself. So I'm intrigued to see where that's going to go. I know, like every time he shows up in a lot of small parts. He's been in that film MacGruber. He's been
Mhm.
in some Kevin Smith stuff. So
I do
and
remember him in some of the Kevin Smith stuff. Yeah, like
I know he was in Jane Silent Bob. Oh, what was the newest one they did? I'm
reboot.
forget Reboot, yes. And then he was in Kilroy Was Here. So he's done a lot of different things with Kevin Smith. I know he has a big friendship with him as well. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to go. Anytime you say wrestling and horror, I'm there for it. It's going to be on the low budget side. I'm excited to see where we're going to see this at, though. I would love for this, even if it's got a small release, like how all of these random films that we've been seeing at the theater are just there for a weekend or something like that. I would absolutely go see this just to show my support because I definitely want more stuff like this. And I think it's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. I'm not gonna take it seriously. To have an actual pro wrestler there that knows the insights of pro wrestling and kind of intertwine them with the horror, I think it's a perfect match.
Match. I like what you did there, brother.
There you
No,
go.
I feel you, and I agree. I would like to see stuff like this get a small theatrical release, at least. Like I really have enjoyed that. Even though out of the three movies we've seen, hated uh, Jeepers Creepers. Had issues with the mean one, but um, Terrifier 2 is great. Those are really fun experiences.
Yep.
And I think that that's such a unique space and such a wonderful thing to do in the horror space right now. I love going there with the community and sitting in a near packed house. Even going to these theaters that we don't go to very often because they are so far away from us. I really, really enjoy that kind of communal experience to it. So it's like, it would be nice. I agree with you to kind of get to see that. And I just gotta say it. We did get to interview Stephen Lamort at the beginning of this week. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really fun video, great interview. How would you feel if we got a hold of this director and then got to talk to him and Chris Jericho?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that'd be a dream come true for you, I'd imagine.
That would be phenomenal. Just to be able to pick their brains about what
Mm,
goes into this, because I think it is just going to be something so interesting and off the wall here. When you hear pro wrestling mixed with this whole cult aspect and
mm.
in the horror genre, I think you're really just going to get something fun, and they know what they're doing, what to expect. It's just going to be a great time.
Because I mean, um, with your series of slashers and suplexes, it does kind of show that like the horror community and the wrestling community, not only do they cross paths a lot and they cross pollinate, but they are very similar to each other in the sense
Yeah,
of just like, wrestling fans, they show up for that stuff and they're diehards about it. Horror fans are the same way. You know what I mean? Like they have particular wants, expectations, needs, and everything, and they cross pollinate so well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why it is kind of a beautiful marriage, that series. So seeing them kind of bring this to cinemas, at least, that like I said, I'm intrigued. I may not know as much about the wrestling side of things as you do, and I want to get more on top of it, but it's definitely something I'm interested in, and I will be there with you day one to see it.
And it's like both horror and pro wrestling, they have this kinship when, you see someone wearing a Jason Live shirt, you nod at them, you know they know what's going on. When you see someone wearing a Chris Jericho T-shirt, you nod at them because they know what's going on. So this is very interesting. This melding of both these worlds coming together. It would be such a communal experience as well, because I mean they're diehards. It's absolute support from both sides. So I think it's a perfect marriage. I'm excited to see where this leads. I hope this gets at least a small release, just because I would love to experience this one in the theater.